Hi, everyone. Welcome into a new episode of Gridiron Dynasty, a fantasy football podcast. I am your host, Timothy, and joining me is Patrick. Patrick, say hi.
Hello, people.
And also a familiar face, recurring guest, Matt Murray. Matt, say hi.
Hello.
Thank you. You guys both did wonderful. Now you will shut up for the rest of the night.
Good night
Well,
and
that's
good
going to be hard
news.
for you to do out of all people.
Me.
Yeah.
Listen, Tim on a tangent. I don't want to hear it.
I haven't gotten on a tangent yet. We've been recording for 30 minutes, 30 seconds. Damn it, I can't talk. I blame Pat. He made us wait this late to get on. Anywho, so we're going into week 8 of the fantasy football season. So we're right at the midway point ish. Little, I'll call it like a week or so early on it, but we're right around the midway point. Last time we had an episode, we talked about what to do if you're doing really well in your Dynasty League, where to go from there, what trades to target, stuff like that. So now we're going to talk about the other end of the scope. By now, you should know if you're going to make it into the playoffs or not, or if you're in the hunt at least. If you're not in the hunt, we're going to talk about what we think you guys should do. Then we're going to go over our starts of the week like we've been doing and our DraftKings lineups. So before we start, how's everyone doing in your fantasy leagues this year, whether it's just the podcast league or just the leagues in general?
Very middle of the road. Love in the middle of the road. If I'm gonna get run over in every league, so it's fun. But at least middle of the road.
That's good.
Worst goddamn place to be in Dynasty football ever.
Yeah, because you don't know what to do. It's like, should I rebuild? Should I go for it? What am I doing?
Worst place ever.
Yep. How about you, Matt?
Top 3 in every league I'm in. So
Let's get a different person to guest star next time. Good lord.
Oh, nobody else answers me, so
We want proof. Bring the spreadsheets.
that Matt's
Just because we're in every league
Pat,
together
he's
doesn't
seriously
mean we
just
can
gonna bring.
prove
He's gonna
that.
pull them up now.
Don't let him present. Turn that off. Come on. You got a button.
Well, I need you to present. So,
Okay.
so I kind of my hands are tied here, sir.
Maybe his internet breaks. We don't know.
I mean, I'm doing about as what I expected in the leagues that I'm in. One league I'm in first place, highest scoring team. Lost to one of the worst teams in the league last week though, so that sucked. Pat's league, I'm not as dominant as I've been, but I wasn't last year either and still won. This league, I'm towards the top. And my other two, middle of the road ish. So it's been a decent season so far. It's been a very low scoring season this year, fantasy football wise, just in general. Not a lot of big old performances this year like there were last year. I mean, Jamar Chase is finally starting to show up, but don't really have someone this year that's playing like he was last year.
If you look at the running back drop off, that's where a lot of the big scoring things come from, is those running backs getting 3 touchdowns a game. The only one of them we're really doing that, Josh Jacobs, right now. And he was an overlooked afterthought. He's part of trade pieces going the other way. So you have a lot of teams that are owning Josh Jacobs right now that are not your top teams in the league. So you're not seeing those big performances because Josh Jacobs putting up 35 points, but the rest of their teams are putting up 50 because they kind of took a flyer on him, took him as part of a piece in a trade, and made a move for him.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's a big hit. Nick Chubb's your regular RB1. So he's in teams that are making moves, but he's not putting up 35 a week either because Cleveland's not doing anything close to what they were doing last year or what they will be doing once they have, better massages.
It's just Nick Chubb's doing this all with getting minimal passing work. Usually the running back that's dominating fantasy football is someone like a Christian McCaffrey or something like that who's getting 5 catches a game on top of the 20 carries. Nick Chubb's just getting 30 carries and going to work. I
feel like receiving backs have their own thing this year.
It's weird.
I don't know if anyone else feels like that, but like there was always that 3 down back. I can't find one this year.
Saquon.
I really, but what is he putting up? 22, 23 a game? Like that's great. But like when you have that 3 down back, you usually expect 28 to 30. Like that's just where that's what we may have been blessed with awesome performances in the past that are just not showing up the same way they are now.
I think because
But
teams
that's
are getting
you always
smarter.
you always had that guy. You looked at the top of your draft, and there was 3 running backs who were going to put up 35 points a game, and it was going to be a big dominant performance. And it just doesn't exist this year.
I think that's because teams are getting smarter now. They're not wearing down their lead guy as much anymore. They're seeing all these injuries that have been happening. Christian McCaffrey, Brees Hall, and the Jets just tore his ACL. That's not because of an overloaded workload, but it's going to happen when you're on the field more. There's a higher probability that you're going to be the one getting hurt. So these teams are leaning away from having a bell cow and going to more of a committee approach.
Were they home or away this week?
The Jets?
Aye.
Jets are
They
home.
were in Denver.
We are in Denver, but we're home now.
You were in Denver. Okay.
So
people love to get hurt in the Meadowlands. So
it's very true.
MetLife, whatever the hell that thing's called. So
Nobody's
I'm just
gonna wanna
curious when it
come
happened again. No one wants to play there.
People everybody talks about Odell possibly coming back to the Giants. I tell everybody there's no way Odell plays on that turf.
He hates it.
He could come and play at the Giants all he wants. He's never going to play on that turf. So the best thing the Giants and the Jets can do is after the season is tear that turf up and put the field down.
I'm surprised the NFL hasn't made them do that yet.
There's too many injuries that happen there.
Choose
way
up
too many
people's
injuries.
knees. Choose them up.
With all the injuries that happened there, I'm shocked the NFL hasn't stepped in and done something. That's the one thing the NFL, you got to give the NFL credit for, was the safety of players is their number one priority, and it shows. And they're not addressing a field that causes injuries every single game, and that's not an over-exaggeration. There's at least one injury in a game in the Meadowlands that's not necessarily significant, but significant enough where it's a little bit of a head-scratch, like, why is this still going on?
And let's be honest here, it's not a dome. You could put a field in. It's not a dome. You could put a field in.
Yeah. Or they could get a better turf than that. They make better ones than that. That marble, the little pebble thing that they got there, it's
awful.
Yeah,
it's absolutely awful. Like I went, like I was telling Pat, one of the more recent podcasts. I was at Pittsburgh for the Jets Steelers game. So the night before it poured, and then the University of Pittsburgh then played a game while it was pouring, and the field the next day was in still better condition, better playing condition than MetLife is. That's awful.
Listen, you're an NFL stadium. You got to be able to survive. Even that, like a game that day, game next day, you got to be ready. The fact that MetLife on turf can't get their stuff together, it's
awful. They got to, like Matt said, they got to tear it up, put something new down, do something. But all right, so we'll move on. That was a little bit of a tangent to start, but only
no
8
way,
minutes.
not us.
Only 8 minutes. It wasn't too big of a tangent to start off. So we're gonna jump right into your 1-6, 2-5, or 0-7 right now in your Dynasty League. What to do? Hopefully you still have your first round draft pick, because it's looking like it's the 101 and looking like Bijan Robinson out of Texas. Very good offensive draft class coming out this year. So my personal move right now, trade veteran assets for draft picks. If you want to target a younger guy, sure, but I like the draft class coming out this year. Got a lot of talent, especially in your super flex leagues. You got a lot of quarterbacks coming out, a lot of good quarterbacks coming out this year. I think they're projecting 5, maybe 6 quarterbacks. Now that the kid from Tennessee is playing his ass off, he's looking like a late first round pick potentially this year.
Let's be honest. Even if you have high quarterbacks in the draft, if you're tanking for Tua, you better know he's going to play. And that's a big part. How many quarterbacks are going to step in and play week 1? If you're going for that top draft pick, are you rebuilding for 2 years or are you rebuilding for this year? Because especially in a super flex league, you see how fast quarterbacks come off the board. They don't necessarily have to be playing this year. There's people who have that kind of flexibility to not have to worry about that this year. So, yes, you have 6 quarterbacks that are in a conversation. You have probably 3 that are really going to start next year. So, based off of where you're coming out, and this is a big thing to do, if you're tanking, even if you're not tanking, if you're preparing for next year, let's call it that from now on. If that's your prep, if you don't know who's coming out in the draft class next year, why are you tanking? So if you mentioned the 101, We all know who that is. But
Bijan
once again, it's a
Robinson.
running back. Once again. And then you look at how many other running backs are coming out of that draft class, and let's be honest with the number here. It's 0. It's 0.
It's Bijan and whatever
It's-
Alabama throws
that's
into the
it.
draft.
Right. The Alabama Gibbs, I think that's his name.
Mhm.
He'll go somewhere. He'll play. We all know that, but it's not that like locked in thing. So when you're making your trades, when you're making your moves, make sure you keep in mind what's coming out of that draft class. Don't start trading away all your running back talent for first round picks and then ending up with 9 wide receivers. Someone actually approached me the other day and they were like, "Is it a running back heavy draft class this year?" No. So if running back's your issue, you better address that a different way. If wide receiver is your issue, perfect. Go get some draft picks. If quarterback's your issue, awesome. Go get some draft picks. But if running back's your issue, go fix that. Go find someone young. Go find someone who's not playing this year. Go find someone Cam Akers like. Maybe someone who's not necessarily involved in a lineup this year that you can get a decent price on and go with that. So that's my only caveat in the situation.
Matt.
No, I agree. The problem with going after running backs that are currently in the league is like the shelf life on a running back anymore is nothing. Like, so you don't know what you're going to get year for year from a running back. So guys that were good last year are just not the same this year, and then guys that you bring up Cam Akers, right? Like I stashed him in this league last year. I used him as a keeper. He was on my IR the whole year, kept him as a keeper, and then traded him, and he hasn't done anything. He's not even going to be a Ram much longer, it looks like. So you never know. But then on the flip side, the people that stashed Etienne are looking like geniuses now. So you just don't know what running backs. They're not wide receivers. So wide receivers have much higher shelf lives right now than running backs do.
And we talked about it before. The running back position in general has taken a dip in fantasy scoring. The shift has been more towards the pass catchers. You got all these wide receivers putting up monster numbers. Okay, not monster, but more consistently high numbers than running backs have been this year. So the value has been shifting to wide receivers, but there is more of them. A lot more wide receivers that are competitive. So it's a little bit of both. But definitely in Superflex leagues, it's harder. I feel like if you're a bottom tier team and you're in the Superflex league, it's kind of hard to recover if you don't have a young quarterback. I'm in the middle of the road towards the upper tier in our podcast league, and I had to trade a second round pick for Daniel Jones because my quarterbacks were not performing. I traded a second round pick earlier in the year for Davis Mills, hoping he was going to do something. Not doing good. Zach Wilson, not turning the ball over, great. You're not putting up fantasy points either. And Rodgers looks like a shell of himself because that team doesn't have Devontae anymore. So now we got Daniel Jones, quarterback 10 on the year, who's now pretty much my QB1. And I need to lean on Daniel Jones. So if you're in a Superflex league, like I said, good quarterback class coming out, go get your picks for a quarterback. Get yourself at least one of these quarterbacks coming out if you can. Like Pat said, at least 3 of them are probably going to start at the beginning of the year next year. And then you can also target a quarterback like Malik Willis, who they might give him some run towards the end of the year this year with Tannehill, depending on how Tennessee plays. And then you also got Desmond Ridder in Atlanta if Atlanta starts losing. Look at either one of those. Target them. Try to get some, like, give up a little bit for them. Don't go nuts. But
my children are being fantastic children, so if y'all give me 1 second, I need to go take a shot with my wife, so I'll be right back.
Oh, you're going to go take a shot? Nice. But yeah, no, I love the draft class coming out this year. Very offense oriented. Quarterbacks look good.
I'm not as up on the college players as much as I should be, but I've heard that it's pretty quarterback heavy. So
Quarterback heavy, you got one of the best running back prospects to come out in the past couple of years with Bijan Robinson. If you've watched any Texas games this year, and I suggest you do, just take a look at Bijan Robinson this year. He's an absolute monster.
Listen, grab some film. You don't have to watch a game.
Go on YouTube.
Grab some highlights. Grab some YouTube highlights. If you're in a Dynasty league and you're in the bottom third of your league right now, start just typing into Google 2023 mock draft. Take a list of those players because there's one running back, maybe a late second, but you need to have some sort of idea of what you're getting. And when you look at players, being a great college player doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great pro player. It just doesn't. It doesn't translate the same way. The game's not the same. But you have players in the SEC who are going to come out and be better equipped at some things. You have players in the Pac-12 that are come out and be better equipped at some things. Players in the Pac-12 have a tendency to be really good wide receivers. They have a tendency to be really bad quarterbacks. It's a weird type of situation, but USC quarterbacks suck. USC wide receivers, very good. Why? It makes no damn sense. It's the same people throwing him the ball, right? You would think that would just the wide receiver made the quarterback who he was. And Pac-12 isn't exactly known for its great wide receiver defense. So the cornerbacks coming out are coming from the SEC. So when you see a wide receiver who's putting up great numbers in the SEC, be prepared for him to be a great wide receiver in the NFL. He's playing against some of the best defenses that exist. Same thing goes for quarterbacks that are playing there. Now, listen, look at what Tua has done with the right coaching staff. Look at what Tua has done with the right offensive weapons. But they built Alabama back around him. That's what they did. They rebuilt Alabama.
Quite literally with Jalen Waddle.
So, I mean, it's a big factor. You have to look at where they go. When you look at Jamar Chase and the reason everyone loved him so much, why? Because he was back with Joe Burrow. Yes, he's a great wide receiver, but he was back with his college quarterback. So don't ignore certain factors when it comes to players. And when you're building what you want to do with your team next year, keep in mind that the first round in a super flex is going to be very quarterback and very wide receiver heavy. Don't stash 8 wide receivers and 0 running backs if you have the 4th pick in the draft.
Yeah, if you have the 101, you're getting Bijan Robinson. I think even in a super flex league, I think he's the 101 versus. It depends on where the quarterbacks land.
It depends on where Stroud and Young end up. I do. There's the little with Superflex. There's definitely a caveat in there because of the fact that you can throw. If you're getting the 101, let's be honest, you probably don't have 2 great quarterbacks.
True.
That's probably not the strength of your team. Otherwise, you probably would not be in last place. Maybe they're both hurt, but there's not many that are like that right now. So,
and then if you're
odds are QB's not your best strength. So. Now, maybe running back's not your best strength either. Where can you capitalize? Set yourself up. You know you're going to have 101. You're 0-7, and the second to last place team is 3-4. You have the 101. You locked it up. Go figure out if you can get one of those top tier running backs or mid range running backs, or a QB2. That way you know what you're locking into that 101. Because if you can get an RB2 and solidify your running backs, you can lock in that quarterback. If you can get that QB2, you can lock in your necessity for running back. There's ways to set yourself up by knowing what you're going to pick next year.
Yeah.
So if you know I'm out, start setting yourself up and include that 101 in your setup. Don't just look at the thing and be like, I'll just go grab this guy. I'm going to grab the quarterback one. I need a running back. I'm going to grab the running back one. I need a quarterback. And make that part of your draft strategy Your draft strategy should be aligned with your trading strategy right now.
And like Pat said, when you factor in, you got to factor in where your draft position currently is. You currently have the 101. You need a whole mess of things, most likely. One position, one pick is not going to fix it. You look at someone who has potentially 2 first-round picks because you could trade future picks in most leagues. Someone who has projected pick 5 and pick 8. Going to get towards the end of the year, see what that team's going to need. If they're going to need a running back or if they're going to need a quarterback in a super flex league, dangle out the 101 to them for both of their first. Get yourself set up better situated for yourself for the future. Just take into account your roster and the rosters of the teams around you is one of the advice I could give.
And a big factor in there is running backs are hurt this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have lost both your running backs. They may be back next year. That's not a need for you. And big move, especially in leagues like this, is the good old-fashioned trade back. If you have the 101 and someone desperately needs one piece to feel like they're together, you may have to drop back to 7-9 or 7-12 and give up the 1. But that may suit your team better in the long run than holding on to that 1 and taking a player that doesn't necessarily complete your team.
Yep. Or if they have 2 RB2s and they want Bijan Robinson to be their RB1, they throw their first-round pick and one of their RB2s at you. You take care of a need at running back, and then you can address wide receiver, quarterback later in the first. Something like that. Also, don't take a tight end in the first round. This draft's not good for tight ends.
Hey.
As far as I know.
That dude from Notre Dame's going to be good. He's not going to go in the first round,
No.
but that dude from Notre Dame's going to be good.
Look, Bijan. Okay, I'm talking about Bijan Robinson a lot. Don't panic if he doesn't get drafted in the first round. He's a running back. He's most likely not going to get drafted in the first round. Breece Hall was one of the best running back prospects.
I wholeheartedly think he's going to get drafted in the first round.
I'm just saying there's a possibility he won't. Breece Hall was one of the best running back prospects to come out in recent memory. He was rated just as good, if not better, than Saquon Barkley coming out, and Breece Hall didn't go into the second round. So there's a possibility.
203, 204 is still a great place for your running back. Don't get me wrong.
No.
Early second, still great running back.
Yeah, I'm talking
no
about.
Panic.
And just for clarification, I'm talking about in the first round of the NFL draft. Not
he's going in the first
draft.
round of your fantasy. If he doesn't go in the first round of your fantasy draft, everyone should panic.
Correct. Especially
everyone
in the draft.
Leave that league immediately because they messed up, or just take him in the second round. I guess you should probably win that league if he drops.
And the one more thing that I will say on my end for rebuild, I've been in a team that needed a rebuild. Patience. If you're 0-7, you're most likely not going to compete for the championship next year. Don't try to swing for the fences and restructure your entire roster for next season. It's going to take a little bit of building. It's not going to be a one-year fix. I started one league, went straight to the bottom, and now I've been in the championship game 3 straight years in that league after being at the bottom for the first 3 or so. You're going to have to be patient to work your way back up because in fantasy football, shit likes to move. Things will rotate. Things will move around. It's a very fluid thing eventually. So just be patient. Don't get frustrated if next year you're still at the bottom of the league. Just keep doing what you need to do.
You also need to be active.
That too. Do not sit there and sit on your thumbs.
Don't sit there at the end of the year and do nothing. People in 5th and 6th will make moves they probably shouldn't make because they're going to be in the playoffs.
They're going to panic.
And once you're in the playoffs, you want to win. No one goes and finishes 5th and goes, you know what, I'll just finish 5th. That's fine. Let me just lose this playoff matchup.
And that's
maybe you get a little bit more for that player who's coming back off an injury. Maybe you get that a little bit more for that player that's hot right now, but not necessarily that long-term prospect. Don't give up. Most of the dynasty leagues that I know have removed the trade deadline, thank God. Most of them have. The trade deadline is gone. There's a reason for that. It's because you're always building in a dynasty league. So don't sit on it. You can get a trade as late as the last week if the person in second, who's battling the person in first, loses a wide receiver. If you're in a championship game, you're going for it. You're not throwing away 300 to 600, depending on what league you're in. You're going for that money. you'll give up a second-round pick to go for that money. You might give up a first-round pick to go for that money in the right situation.
I've done it.
If
I did
you
it last year.
if you are losing, stay there. Stay offering. Stay active. Stay talking to those teams in the top 4. Yeah, their draft picks are late in the round. Who cares? Those are picks that can help you for players that are aging, for players that are not going to exactly do it for you anymore.
Mm.
And don't overvalue what you have, too. I feel like sometimes in Dynasty leagues, people overvalue. They try to go swing for the fences. You say patience, right? Like, you can't sit here and have a borderline RB2 and tell me you want a first-round pick at a young wide receiver for him. Like, you can't tell me you want David Montgomery and you want me to give you a first-round pick and Chris Olave for him.
That sounds oddly specific, Matt.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, that, that type of stuff, like, don't overvalue it. Like, get what you should deserve. The guy that needs it should overpay, but he's not going to overpay like that.
So one of the things that, like, I won't say it's the end-all be-all when it comes to trades. Trade calculators are out there to use. I wouldn't base every single trade you make off of them, but it's a good way to get values, especially the one I've been kind of using a lot more recently is Keep Trade Cut, KTC. Type in Google KTC trade calculator. They'll ask you a question at the beginning saying 3 options, keep, trade, cut. So based off of what you choose for those 3 players, they build their value system for them. So done by the players along with other algorithms, I believe. So use that for values. That's what I like. If you don't know, like, hey, does this trade make sense? Just type it in there and see if it looks like it makes sense. If it's all red and it looks terrible, then it's probably a terrible trade and you should rethink it.
Having a secondary validation tool is not a terrible thing. Don't put all your money in that either, though, because people have emotions.
Yes.
People are not trade calculators. You can use that. Maybe you have a trade in your head and you're like, does this make any sense? And you put in the trade calculator and the trade calculator tells you to go after yourself. Well, that's probably a bad trade then.
Yeah.
The other team's probably going to deny that also. If it says it's kind of close, you're probably going to have to throw something else in. Let's be honest. If the trade calculator says your trade is perfect, you didn't offer enough. Because the other person's going to be like, no, it's not enough for that. It's not even close. So use it as a baseline. If you're getting completely wrecked in a trade calculator, probably don't accept it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more of a check it out tool. Then don't put every single trade you have into a trade calculator and wait till it gets even and then offer it. They'll all get denied. Every single one of them will get denied.
Yeah, no, like you can work on something with someone and be like, look, here's where I'm at. This is what it's showing me. Like, this is what it's showing for you. Like, I've used it before in negotiations for myself, showing like to the other person, hey, you're on the winning side of this trade. This is why it makes sense for you, explaining it in details for some of the newer Dynasty players. Some of them understand of it, some of them don't. Like a trade I proposed in this podcast league, it was very severely in the red for me, with the other person getting a lot more value, and that got denied. So it's hard to please people sometimes too, and that's another thing. Just don't get frustrated when people don't accept your trades. Just keep throwing them out there. Trading is a very essential part of fantasy football. I couldn't imagine being in a league that doesn't trade.
You can't factor in emotion. There's no button for that.
No, unfortunately not.
This guy really loves this guy. Oh, well, then let's offer more.
Oh, yeah, if you're rebuilding, don't hold any emotional attachment to players. Everyone's available on a rebuild. Don't let anyone tell you any different. I don't care. To be honest, if you have Breece Hall right now, go ahead. Put him out there. Don't hold any emotional attachment or attachment to any players. Nobody's off limits if you're trying to rebuild. To be perfectly honest. Everybody should be available for any bid. And you put a player out there, see what people offer.
That's why you gotta love the trades.
Mm-hmm.
Just put them on the block.
Yep.
Check. It's on the block.
Again, another
4 people will send you offers. It don't matter. They may not be good offers, but someone will send you something.
Also, make it clear if you accidentally put someone on the block, make sure the league knows that was an accident like I did today.
You should also not put 4 people on the block and then say that one was an accident, but it doesn't tag the one that you said was an accident, so everyone doesn't know. Well, we know because it was Justin Jefferson, but not everyone knows which player you accidentally
I hit
put
reply.
on the block.
I hit reply to it, so if you click the thing I reply to, it brings you to that one.
I'm not going to do that. That's too much work for me.
Whatever.
And that's too much work for everyone else. You could see your brother shaking his head like, yeah, I had no idea which one you were talking
Again,
about.
it was obvious. It was
Once
Justin
I opened
Jefferson.
it and read which ones he put on there, I knew which one he was talking
Yeah,
about.
we
But
all
his
knew it was
comment was
Justin
3
Jefferson.
underneath him, and I was like,
Whatever.
We
I
all
offered
knew
you
it
a
was.
deal for that guy earlier this year, and you didn't want to trade him. So
No, I know, and we changed it to Cooper Cup instead.
yeah.
So, all right, we'll move on. We'll get on to our Week 8 starts of the week. Patrick, if you would so please share your files that you worked. So, Pat worked all day on these.
Pat worked for 13 seconds on these.
So
and now he has to find them because he doesn't remember where the hell he put them on his. Oh, he put them on his desktop because he's a smart person.
I'm so
he's not, but he's close to it.
Oh,
could be a smart person. Starts of the week. That's starts of the week. You said, right?
Yeah, it starts of the week. Yep.
All right, that's gonna be the
segment.
One. That's not the DraftKings one.
I need a producer.
That is, I know that.
If anyone wants to be a producer out there in the YouTube world, let me know. I won't pay you anything except for, hey, how you doing? High fives maybe in person, but
can you read it?
Yes. Well, no, it was better before.
Yeah.
It was better before?
It was a lot better before.
So this is better?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Infinitely.
I was unprepared for a smaller window to be better, but sometimes it's the motion.
It's
of the
not
ocean,
smaller.
Not the size of the boat that gets the work done.
Pat, this is showing up a lot bigger for us.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen. Maybe it's a grower, not a shower. Here we are. All right, let's.
Alrighty then, Patrick.
I don't understand why I don't. It's a very small screen.
Okay, so we'll. All right, I'm listed first, so I'll start off. Matt and I will go first with quarterback, seeing as we have the same guy. It's Daniel Jones. We talked about him earlier. I made a trade for him. Matt and I talked about him off air. What you're hoping for out of Daniel Jones is 200 to 225 passing yards, 1 to maybe 2 passing touchdowns. The Seattle defense isn't exactly the best defense in the world. But then you're also hoping for that upside of his rushing. Last week he had 11 carries for like 105 yards or 115 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. You're hoping for around, I would say, 60 plus rushing yards and a touchdown out of him. For where he's at, that'd be, if he gets you 17 to 20 points, that's a win for me.
Let's be honest. If you're putting Daniel Jones in there, you're hoping for the rushing TD.
100%.
You're hoping for the rushing TD.
Seattle's passing defense isn't the best, but the
Daniel Jones has
the best.
Daniel Jones has 2 throwing touchdowns on the year. Where's the gap?
6.
Does he really?
Well, we're in week 8,
so proud of him.
Same amount that Jalen Hurts has.
Yeah, well, Jalen Hurts is still putting up a hell of a lot more fantasy points. So here we are.
Because he's throwing a lot of yards, just not throwing them in the end zone.
That's because he throws a lot of yards and then he runs them into the end zone. Much more effective.
Yeah. So, Pat, your quarterback is oh wait, Matt, anything you want to add about Daniel Jones? Sorry.
No, I just think that Daniel Jones is right now the 10th ranked quarterback in fantasy, which puts him in the QB1 discussion.
But he's not ranked like that week to week, and that's a great pickup. He's not ranked like that at all. They still undercut his numbers at 16 to 17 almost every single week.
Yeah,
There's no
right now he's averaging 20.9 points per game in fantasy.
And he's available.
Yeah.
He's available.
Yeah. I literally picked him up in Timmy's league to play this week because I'm out Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting out there, number 10 quarterback in fantasy football, sitting out there on the waiver wire to be picked up.
Because you look at the name Daniel Jones and you got a little sick feeling in your stomach.
Yeah, because he's not, but then you look at Seattle's giving up the 5th most passing yards in the league this year on average. They, he rushes the ball good too. He's got the 3rd most first downs for rushing in the league. That includes running backs. The only people ahead of him are Jacobs and Chubb. And he's got more rushing yards than Najee Harris does. He's time to give the guy a little respect.
let's be honest. When you think about quarterbacks, when you're staring at the waiver wire and you're thinking about quarterbacks, you go, who's he throwing the ball to?
Correct.
And the first people off the board are the ones that have those big name wide receivers.
Guys that can
And
throw 400
Daniel Jones has none of those. But that doesn't matter. You don't need to have it. Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson can get the job done. They've gotten the job done before. Listen, Kenny Golladay wasn't doing anything when he was active. Kadarius Toney is the odd man out on everything. Is he injured? Is he just getting benched? We don't know. But they don't need that huge name wide receiver. Their running game creates opportunities. You get the mismatch in the defense, and that's all you need. So Slayton put up points when he was with Daniel Jones the last 2 years. I got no doubts that he can do that again. Wan'Dale Robinson has been huge as long as he's playing this week, which I think signs are pointing upwards. Correct me if I'm wrong, Giants fans. Wan'Dale Robinson. I know he's questionable. I know he's limited.
He's going to be limited all year.
Isn't everyone on the Giants limited all year? Let's be honest. I don't think they practice. I think they go out there and hand the ball off to a traffic cone, and then they show up and win the game on Sunday. So who cares? They're going to play. The two of them are going to play. So I think the opportunity is definitely there. My only fear is that when the Murray brothers pick someone, he usually sucks. So be careful about picking Daniel Jones because they agreed on something, and that's bad for the rest of the world. Sorry, guys. It's not my fault.
What did we agree on last time? Tunyon?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and he had
no catches.
5 yards. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, we're gonna move on now. All right. We'll move on to Pat, whose quarterback is the New Orleans Saints.
Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston. I don't know who's starting this week, and you have plenty of time to figure that out, just like they do, because neither of them are owned anywhere. Congratulations. You have what was one of the best passing attacks in all of the NFL, and both their quarterbacks are sitting on waivers. Why? Because they're named Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. And that doesn't really breed a whole lot of confidence, except Andy Dalton put up 31 points while getting blown out on primetime, because that's what Andy Dalton does. He gets blown out on primetime, throws 3 interceptions, and looks terrible. It's just his thing. He's really good at it. He's got a pretty solid team around him. Either one of them do. Taysom Hill keeps just stealing touchdowns from everyone. Poor Alvin Kamara, who just can't get into the end zone because they keep handing the ball off. No, they don't even do that. They just put Taysom Hill quarterback, and he runs the ball in himself. It's a real big disappointment, but you know what? The New Orleans Saints don't care about that. But the thing is, their quarterback position can still put up points. They have a little bit of a soft matchup this week, and I think Chris Olave, who you see as my wide receiver, is going to put up some numbers this week. Is Michael Thomas going to come back? Probably not. We don't know. He hurt his toe, and therefore he's out for 96 weeks. Brian Robinson gets shot, and he's already back running touchdowns. So good for you, Michael Thomas. It must be nice to get paid. Anywho, I think the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints has a good week this week, whichever one that is.
Right. So,
and I thank you for letting me put them both in there, because neither do any of us know which one that's going to be.
Right. So I'm assuming
very forthcoming with information.
Your same argument for Winston/Dalton is the same argument for Chris Olave for you. It's a good matchup for the player. So, and Matt, you went with Wan'Dale. I'm assuming for the same reason you took Daniel Jones. Seattle's terrible against the pass.
They're not good against the pass, and like you said, who else are you going to throw the ball to?
Correct.
I was yelling at the TV that they got to get rid of these practice squad wide receivers who can't catch slant routes in the end zone. And
Sills?
No, that was Marcus Johnson that was on the slant route. But it's like you can't. He doesn't have anybody throwing the ball. The guys that they're paying all the money have torn ACLs, or their egos are hurt, or they're too busy talking on Twitter and games than playing football. So Wan'Dale has shown something the past 2 weeks.
Antonio Brown plays for the Giants? I didn't know that.
Yeah, if his name's spelled Kadarius Toney.
Smart move.
But Wan'Dale showed flashes, and he's not going to be the guy that's going to run down the field and get the 80-yard touchdown catch, but he's going to be the guy that catches that quick slant route and zooms right through the defense and gets down the field. So he was brought on slow, but then last week he was on the field for 80% of their pass plays. So I think he's got a good chance against a not so good secondary in Seattle.
I think I like that call. I think don't discount, and I think this is the funniest part. Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson are both on waivers in every league.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe deep dynasty leagues, Wan'Dale's not because he had that big name attached to him. But if you're in redraft leagues, I can almost guarantee you both these guys are sitting on waivers. You have a big bye week. You just got off of a big bye week. If both of those are still sitting there after the Rams and the Vikings both got off of a bye week, it might be time to grab one. Darius Slayton is the guy who will have one catch for 80 yards and a touchdown. And Wan'Dale Robinson is, if I had to imagine it correctly for this week, he's going to be the volume guy. You put up a 6-catch, 60-yard touchdown day, and you're at 18 points. And we've already discussed how great wide receivers are doing this year, but for someone who's sitting on waivers, it's pretty damn good.
I agree.
You guys just went over your wide receivers, so I'll jump to mine. Jerry Jeudy had 11 targets last week. I understand that was a different quarterback, but he looked like the Jerry Jeudy that we expected coming out of college versus the Jerry Jeudy that doesn't know how to catch. He's got a favorable matchup going up against Jacksonville. Broncos country, let's ride. High knees on the airplane. Russell Wilson's going to be ready to go. So I'm just hoping he gets volume. Because they can't run the football. Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray looks better than Melvin Gordon, but that's besides the point. I don't get it, but Latavius Murray looks better than Melvin Gordon does.
We call that a coach's decision.
So, right.
When the coach decides you're getting 10 touches and then he benches the guy who was your starter for the whole year for a guy he picked up who just flew back from London, you just don't want to play anymore. Listen, Melvin doesn't want to play anymore. You could see it on his eyes. You could see it. You could see it all over his face over the last 2 games. He just doesn't want to be there.
I don't think anyone likes Russell.
He doesn't. I don't think. I think that's fair also. But I just don't think Melvin wants to be there. And I'm hoping for everything because I have Melvin some places that he just gets traded and he can move on with his life. But I don't think that coaching staff has a goddamn idea what to do with anything in their entire lives. They don't know what to do with Russell Wilson. They don't know to go for it on 4th down instead of kicking a 65-yard goddamn field goal. They have no idea what they're doing. And when a coaching staff has no idea what they're doing, no one on the team wants to play. And no one on that team wants to play. Their defense does because their defensive coordinator is very good. But their offense is like, am I out here again? Why? Give them the ball back. Good job, Russ. Thanks for that. All right, let's go back on the sidelines. Oh, overtime? Russ, give them the ball back again. Maybe they'll kick a field goal and win this time. Nope, they missed it. Son of a... Can I go back out there? Brandon, can you just go kick a 67-yarder? They don't want to be there.
You okay, Pat?
They don't. No, I'm not because I have drafted a lot of Broncos this year, and it has been very depressing.
Okay.
I own Sutton, I own Jeudy, I own Melvin Gordon. I had all of them, and nothing. And that coaching staff is the reason for it. And if you look at the difference between the Giants and the Giants, what was your difference? The coach. And that is what it is all over Denver.
So I guess you're saying Nathaniel can't hack it?
He can't. He needs to get hacked out. Forget hack it, hack out. I can't start a Broncos player. I can start their defense all over the place because their defense is playing phenomenal. It's the only reason they're in every game.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
I can't. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton have looked great when the ball has landed in their hands.
Yeah, no,
but they don't want to be there.
That's the reason why
they're not going to be there in a week.
I watched the Broncos game because they played the Jets, and I watched Jerry Jeudy consistently getting open against a above average to very good Jets secondary right now. That's the one thing like people can't knock about the Jets right now is they have 2 pretty damn good cornerbacks in DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, and Sauce Gardner's playing like an absolute stud. And their safeties are good, and Jerry Jeudy just kept getting open. So there's a little bit of hope for me, and the reason why I have him on here is because he's not someone that you're not so sure if you should be starting because of the issues they've been having. I saw promise out of him last week, and I'm hoping he carries over against a more favorable matchup against Jacksonville. It's a much better matchup than the Jets.
You could see the frustration
Mm-hmm.
in every Broncos player.
Except for Russell.
And he looks so happy.
He does.
Because he's getting paid. But it shows, and I feel like it's going to show on the field. In comparison with Matt's tight end pick for the Broncos, I absolutely love that. And the reason for that is that's your check down guy. It's the guy that they're just tossing the ball over to, and they're trying to figure out who their tight end of the future is going to be. It's going to be him.
Dulcich is good.
It's going to be him. So that's going to get you 5 catches a game, and we've already discussed to no end how much a 12-point tight end can put you in tight end 1 category.
12-point, dude. We're at the point where 7-point tight ends are in tight end 1 territory.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that pick on the Broncos side. So while I'm knocking all the Broncos players, that's the one I'm not going to knock. I completely agree with that tight end pick. It's just I can't look at any – when you lean on Latavius Murray nonstop in the first week he's on the team just because you were his coach before, no one wants to play for you anymore.
I don't know if there's any confusion. Matt and I are not related to him. Just throwing it out there. So Matt, we brought up Dulcich, so we'll just skip over. We'll save running backs for last. So Matt, go talk about Dulcich a little bit.
So he's another one that's just come back from injury the last 2 weeks. So what did they play? Sunday night 2 weeks ago, right? Sunday night, Monday night, one of the two. Monday night. It looked good. He hadn't played, and then all of a sudden he's out there catching. He had like 3 catches for like 40-ish yards and a touchdown. And he had a couple other ones where he was open and he just missed because of the quarterback play out there in Denver. And then last week he had a different quarterback and he had more catches and more yards, just no touchdown. You have Russell Wilson coming back. Who knows what that's going to entail? I see them. I don't remember who they're playing right now, but they I don't see some of those offensive people. Who are they playing?
Jacksonville. So Jacksonville's been pretty tough against tight ends. You know, they broke my tight end's nose or face or eye or something this week. Eye.
Yeah,
they poked him in the eye. That's not
Captain
fair.
He's got to have like extensive surgery on his face so he's able to see for the rest of his life. But I don't see some of those offensive pieces being there this time next week. So I think people like Judy are going to get traded, especially after that Brian Robinson trade earlier this week. They're going to look to capitalize on an investment. What?
James Robinson.
That's
what I meant. James Robinson, not Brian Robinson. So Dulcich is going to be the guy there. So I don't see them not going away from tight ends. And, you know, that's why I picked them out of not being able to use the obvious ones. I think he's a 10-point tight end every week.
Yeah, he looked good last week, and that leads me to why I chose Hunter Henry. The Jets aren't the best at covering tight ends. They have good safeties that are good at playing in the box. Jordan Whitehead plays in the box. Hunter Henry started the week because of the fact that last year all he did was caught touchdowns. And no matter which quarterback's throwing the football in New England, that's your best red zone target on that team. So if they're going to score a touchdown, I'm just hoping they throw a touchdown to Hunter Henry. And like I said, the Jets can't cover tight ends. And Hunter Henry has looked better the past 2 weeks than he's
been getting looks.
Yeah. So
that's all it comes down to.
So Hunter Henry, that's mine. Pat, how's Irv Smith looking this week?
He's just sitting on waivers.
Because he sucks.
No, he does not. He's 10-point tight end. Again, he's a 10-point tight end. Almost every single week is a 10-point tight end who drops a touchdown, which is unfortunate because that would make him a 16-point tight end. But almost every week he drops 1 touchdown, and that's unfortunate, as we've just discussed. But another soft matchup. It's just another soft matchup after another soft matchup. All the focus is on Justin Jefferson. The rest of Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen gets all this attention, and Irv Smith just kind of gets left out there. And it's like, who the hell is this guy? He's the guy who's going to be open in the red zone, which is unfortunate because he can't catch the ball. Very Evan Ingram-like. Sorry, Giants fans.
Well, it's not Evan Ingram this year.
He dropped half the passes he was throwing this week.
That's because he had flashbacks because he was playing the Giants.
He was waving. He was having a great
fine.
time, though.
Yeah, flashback all he wants.
So, listen, I think Irv Smith is good for a nice 12, 13 points, and I think that's good enough.
Minnesota, the quietest 5-1 team out there.
The Jets might be the quietest.
They're very good. I picked them to win NFC North this year in your pool. So
yeah, I did also. I honestly don't feel this is a surprise. I don't think the Packers were going to be anything worth a damn this year. The Bears are never worth a damn, and the Lions are the Lions.
They were so good to start the year.
I thought
Lions best offense in the league.
I thought this was and the worst defense to go along with it. I thought the Vikings were a sure lock for that division this year, and it's playing out that way. So I do think Irv Smith Justin Jefferson gets all the attention. He's going to get his catches. We'll get to that later on because we're going to talk him into the ground, I'm sure. I've seen all your lineups. So we're going to talk Justin Jefferson into the ground by the end of this. But Irv Smith only needs to actually catch his one red zone target, and he'll be in tight end one talk. So
yeah, we hope.
He's going to make the catch this time. And Dalvin Cook's totally not going to run it in after a pass interference call on him.
Well, okay. Yeah, you're right. It might be Alexander Madison. The one thing is that Vikings offense has not looked as prolific as I was hoping it was going to look this year. With the Rams offense coordinator coming over to run the team, you're kind of hoping for more of a high-flying, like 35-point a week team, but they're still good. And like Pat said, we'll talk about them in a little bit. We'll get to our DraftKings lineup. All right, let's try to get through running backs as quickly as we can. Deonta Foreman's going up against the Falcons this week. They said Chuba Hubbard was going to be the starter last week, and yes, he started. However, Deonta Foreman got most of the groundwork, and Chuba got most of the passing work like we expected. Last year, Deonta Foreman filled in for Derrick Henry pretty well, I'd say. He's not a terrible running back. He's one of the better backup running backs in the league, in my opinion, as far as pure running goes. Atlanta's middle of the road against running backs. If he gets another 15 carries, he scores a touchdown. Someone that's outside the top 24 gets into the top 24 doing that.
Atlanta is very underrated against running backs.
They're still middle of the road-ish.
But they tend to give up a touchdown.
That's what
and that's how you end up in the middle of the road. That's how you do it. It's not that you don't give up a bunch of yards. It's that you let a team into the red zone, and then they jump in for a touchdown, and that ends your ability to be in the top 5 as rushing defense. So, yeah, touchdown-dependent fantasy performance.
Also, Chuba Hubbard missed practice today. So
if he's out, then that's a no-brainer.
Yes.
So, yeah, Michael Carter, I don't really think I need to get much into that. I don't think James Robinson's going to have a whole lot big of a role.
Not yet.
And the other guy is Ty Johnson. Help me, Jets fans.
Ty Johnson.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'll take Michael Carter this week.
Going against New England, he's going to get a lot of it. I think that the James Robinson pickup is going to be more for the running portion of it. As far as all the passing work is going to Michael Carter. That Breece Hall guy is going to go directly to Michael Carter. And then I think it's going to be like a 60-40, 50-50 split as far as carries go between James Robinson and Michael Carter. Until James Robinson gets fully up to speed, then it might be more of a 65-35 when it comes to that. The other side of the Panthers-Falcons matchup, Matt's got Tyler Algier.
Yeah, he's been coming on the last couple games. So the last 3 games, he's had at least 13 rushes. Last week, he had 16 for 50 and a touchdown. He's going up against Carolina defense, which is middle of the road against running defenses. They're like 11th or something like that. They give up about 120 yards a game. Just a good matchup. Atlanta's offense seems to can put points up.
They run the ball.
Defense. The defense can't stop anybody, and Cordell Patterson's still out, so he's the guy. So
the only thing is, Damian Williams might be back this week. All depends if they to return from the IR. And when he was playing week 1, he was their lead back before Cordero was. So I don't know if that's going to continue or not. But Arthur Smith likes to run the football.
Here's my fear
He's doing it
with Algier. He hasn't had a 10-yard plus rush this year.
No, he does not get a lot of yards per carry.
He's not an explosive back. He's not a bruising running back. So it goes back to my Deontay Foreman statement. It's gonna come down to does he get in the end zone or not. He's not a big passing down back. It's not his game. So it's gonna be a close call. You have a lot of players that are getting ready to come back from injury. You already discussed Damian Williams. Cordell Patterson's gearing back up to come back also. Algiers got to look at this as his moment. This is the only game that he can go ahead and grasp it and go and gain a hold of what he wants to have in the NFL. If he has another middle of the road, as we've said 300 times in this podcast game, it's not going to get the job done. Williams and Patterson will be back. Algier will be back to number 3, and that'll be the end of it. So it'll be very interesting to see the prove it game come out of him. And I'm hoping he does.
Yeah, I love to see it. I love when running backs break through, really get their value up, especially these later round picks. Algier was what, a 4th, 5th round pick, 6th round pick, something like that.
Very, very late. We talked about him significantly in the beginning of this. Also, he was on all of our lists because we knew Cordell Patterson was not going to be the end all be all on that team. Damian Williams was an up and down veteran. We knew that Algier was going to be something.
Yeah, and like you said, this is his
This is his moment.
Yep.
This is it. Cordell Patterson's already destined to return. You have Damian Williams who's already getting ready to come back in. So prove it now, or you may not get another chance to prove it. Marcus Mariota does a lot of running on that team. I think against a Panthers team that's not really all that worth a damn. It's not going to be the Panthers are well up and you can't run the ball anymore. So expect to see a lot of runs, expect to see a lot of opportunity, and expect to see a lot of the Falcons coaching staff giving Algier a chance to show that he deserves to be there.
All right. So those are the starts of the week. There they are on the screen. Now we'll move on to the final segment of the episode. We're going to go over our DraftKings lineups for the week. Again, we choose our DraftKings lineup just for the Sunday games between 1 and 4 o'clock. The London game is not included in this. So I did not put my starts of the week in my DraftKings lineup. I honestly did the DraftKings lineup first and then based my starts of the week off of a different thing. Matt did the same. Pat did throw his starts of the week into his DraftKings lineup. So I'm assuming if Jameis Winston's a starter, it's a substitute for you. Are they the same cost?
I think Jameis Winston is cheaper.
I think he's probably like what, a couple hundred, like $200-$300 cheaper.
Yeah, I don't. It wouldn't change much else in my lineup. I know I did have money left over. Well, let me just get a actual number on that for everyone because that seems fair.
Yes, this is 5,300.
53, so only 200 left.
Yeah,
okay.
He's not a lot different. He was different, but he was not a lot different. Andy Dalton is 55. James Wilson is 53. It's only 200 different. I did have 400 left over, so that would give me 600 left over. For the sake of the podcast, I won't change the lineup. But obviously, you have an extra $600 to throw around. Might change your lineup a little bit. But I think Andy Dalton's going to start anyway, so here we are.
All right. So your 2 quarterbacks we already talked about at length during our starts of the week. Kirk Cousins, they got a good matchup this week. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's good enough where Matt and I both have the starting wide receiver in our lineup, even though he's very expensive at $9,100. Could someone refresh my memory? Who were they playing?
Arizona.
Who is awful?
Who did Andy Dalton just destroy last week?
Correct. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and fire up Captain Kirk. It's not a primetime game as far as I remember, so he should be fine. Which then leads to Justin Jefferson for your stack because I liked having the stack. Pat has a stack in his. Matt has a stack in his-ish.
Running back and
yeah.
Well,
Saquon catches the ball.
It counts. It counts. We'll count it.
Yeah, so moving on to running backs, Matt and I both have Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders has been quietly very good this year for fantasy.
Number 5 running back in fantasy. Wait, that was last year. I said that. Shit, hold on.
Yeah,
I was just predicting the future for everyone.
That was aggressive.
It's Dynasty. I hope you all got him because I was right. I was
He's
just a
running
year
back
early
14.
in being right.
Miles Sanders is running back 14 on the year. And
Yep, that's close enough for me.
And last week the Eagles had their bye, and he's still running back 14 on the year. And they're
Right.
going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which have been, safe to say, a disappointment on defense this year with the loss of TJ Watt for weeks.
Who knows how long? It's a Watt, so you never know. He could play without a heart. You don't know.
Oh,
or he could just sit out for the whole year. We don't know.
I thought you were making a pun and saying it instead of saying it's a lot, it's a Watt. So that's why I gave you the look.
Little column A.
Okay.
Little column B.
Right. So, yeah, Miles Sanders. Eagles offense is one of the best in football. Eagles football team in general is one of the best in football.
The best in football. Let's give them the due they've deserved for
they're the best team in football
just
currently.
this week. So that's
correct.
Fine. Let's give it to him.
Matt, anything you'd like to add about Miles Sanders since you took him too?
No, I took him because he's been good this year.
Oh. Hashtag analysis from my brother. I like
Good reason. Good reason.
I don't know, for the price that he is there, I thought that was a pretty good deal for him. So
agreed.
At that price point, why not take him? They love to run the ball in Philly, so
right. So you also took Saquon Barkley. Not Jacksonville. They're playing Seattle again. Not a good defense. Saquon catches the ball in the backfield. Anything else you like to add in?
Yeah, it's a good matchup against Seattle. Seattle puts points up, but they give them up just as fast, a la the Detroit game a few weeks ago. Where, the two highest scoring teams in the league that week were those two. I just think it's a good matchup for the offense. And the way that Daniel Jones and Saquon ran the ball in specifically the fourth quarter last week is good. So I see it as a plus matchup for him.
All right, Pat, why don't you talk to us about Mr. Derrick Henry?
I will make this simple. He's playing Houston.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat. His last 3 games against Houston were over 200 rushing yards in each game and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
In each of the last 3 games against them.
It's almost. I know he's not listed there because he was too goddamn expensive, but it's almost the same reason that I went out and got Deebo Samuel as my wide receiver. You just have certain players who play well against certain teams. Deebo Samuel loves to play against the Rams, but I love the Rams, so. But I also love Deebo Samuel because he played for South Carolina. It's a very tough spot for me. Usually I go, you fucking asshole. Yay, thanks for winning me my matchup. That's usually how I respond to the Deebo Samuel situation every week. But Derrick Henry just runs all over Houston because Houston has never improved since the day Derrick Henry got into the league. And they've actually managed to get worse every year. Didn't even know it was possible, but here we are. So, yeah. Derrick Henry.
I went with my Brian Robinson. They're going up against the Colts. Colts are starting a rookie quarterback. Not a rookie quarterback, second-year quarterback this year. Essentially a rookie. He didn't really play last year. Sam Ellinger. So I don't expect the Colts to be putting up a lot of points on offense. Although myself and my brother both have Paris Campbell on their roster for this, and we'll talk about him later. Brian Robinson's looked good-ish. He's not averaging a high amount per carry, but
he got shot.
I know but it's also a test to the offensive line in Washington's not the best. But I think they're going to be running the ball a good amount in this game. The Colts' run defense isn't what it was without, I believe, Shaq Leonard's still hurt. Correct? So
that kind of always hurt.
Yeah, he's never healthy. So he's been getting the work. He's been getting most of the carries. Like Antonio Gibson's getting sprinkled in there. Antonio Gibson actually vultured a touchdown away from him last week, usually it's the other way around. People are taking touchdowns away from Gibson. I don't know what's going on.
He's getting a lot of receiving work, which is odd since he was never allowed to have receiving work before he became the receiving running back that he should have always been in the first goddamn place. Very confusing situation in Washington.
I think Ron Rivera doesn't know what he's doing. But anyway, Brian Robinson, I think he gets into the end zone this week. And at 5,600, a starting running back that's getting 15-plus carries a week at 5,600 is a pretty good price point for me for running back. Move on to wide receivers. Justin Jefferson, see Kirk Cousins above. Very, very good matchup, although he will be getting number one cornerback, Byron Murphy, in Arizona. That's been like the one bright spot of their defense is Byron Murphy's good, but Justin Jefferson is different. Justin Jefferson is not the same as all the other wide receivers he's gone up against. So,
are you going to get Shadow? Are you going to get same side? He's found a way to burn him every single time, no matter which one you do. So
he's the Cooper Kupp of that offense. He moves all over.
Yeah, exactly. So is it the cornerback so he's going to line up on the left side outside? They'll move Justin Jefferson inside. They'll move him to the slot. They'll move where the hell they need to move him to get him the ball. Their coaching staff has said over and over again how the goal is to get Justin Jefferson the ball. Expect them to get him the ball.
Mm-hmm. And that's why at 9,100 he's still worth it. You got to pay up for someone in your lineup if you want points. Pat paid up for Derrick Henry. Matt and I paid up for Justin Jefferson.
First time I paid up for a running back. You don't see that very often in my damn lineup.
Well, it's a good running back to pay up for. Matt, anything you want to add on Jettos?
Justin Jefferson?
Yeah.
No, I don't know if there's a defensive back that can cover him right now.
Nope.
So.
You and I also both have DJ Moore.
Yep.
So, finally looked good with PJ Walker throwing him the ball last week. He looked like DJ Moore. Another guy I expect to get traded by next week.
Another guy showing off his skills for getting traded by next week.
Correct. So that's why I picked him, because I think he's going to continue to show off his skills so he does get traded to Kansas City. Matt, anything you
What
want
a waste that would be.
No, I think that he's going to have a big week. He had a good week last week. He's going to have a big week this week. He's looking to get traded to a contender, right? Like, that's what's going to happen here. Carolina's shipping all their other assets off. They're going to leave Baker with nothing. So I think for $5,300, what he put up last week, he matches that. It's worth the $5,300.
Agreed. Going to keep going with duplicates here. We'll go now to me and Pat picking Chris Olave. Already talked about him.
We already picked the same person. Just to expect them to get 65 points this week and just put him in all your lineups. There's really, when Tim and I picked the same person, just put him in the lineup.
Right. It's the opposite of when Matt and I picked the same person. You know, Matt and I have a lot of similarities in our DraftKings lineup right now.
Justin Jefferson right now.
Paris Campbell. Sam Ellinger's playing quarterbacks. Paris Campbell has been the short range receiver. He's not. I don't know if Ellinger is going to throw the ball deep. I have no idea what he's going to do. So slot receivers are usually a young quarterback, inexperienced quarterback's best friend. Aside from the tight end, they don't really have that tight end dominant, and he's cheap.
So you said you don't really know what Sam Ellinger is going to do, and I know we're not really going in order here. But can everyone look at our defenses? So if you don't know what Sam Ellinger is going to do, but you kind of have a feeling of what Sam Ellinger is going to do, because every single one of us picked the defense going up against Sam Ellinger, and that includes a team that has Jonathan Taylor, who you'll notice is not in anybody's lineup either. So, yeah, Paris Campbell may be cheap, and in fantasy, we all know just because you lose doesn't mean you don't put up fantasy points.
Correct. You get
but
5
if
for
anyone
50.
wants to have a general idea of how Sam Ellinger is going to play, I know they have duplicates, but it's not often you have triplets. And here we are.
Well, Matt's married to a triplet.
Everyone. No, see, look at that. Oh, here we are. Now there's 2. Everyone has picked the Commanders' defense. Don't expect much out of Ellinger, but expect him to just throw the ball because he's got nothing else to do.
Yeah, so dump offs to Taylor, Hines, and Paris Campbell.
Exactly. I actually, I don't like to make odd projections, but I see Jonathan Taylor getting pulled out of this game early, returning from injury, not really feeling 100%. They're not going to be playing all that great. Nyheim Hines might be a big, nice little sneak peek with 6 or 7 catches because Jonathan Taylor, who's still nursing an injury, is sitting down on the sidelines.
Didn't Taylor get targeted a lot last week too?
He did 8 times. He was very highly targeted, but it was maybe I'm wrong here, but it was still a competitive game for them, was it not?
I don't know.
Does anyone know?
It's the
Anyone?
Colts. I
Yeah, it
don't
was.
pay attention.
It was a one touchdown game until the fourth quarter. And then they. So I mean, they were still in it. Will they be in it this week? We'll find out. Sam Ellinger played nothing last week, so let's see how close they are to being in it. If you're down by 20 points, are you running Jonathan Taylor out on the field after coming back from an injury to go try to catch a ball from a quarterback who can't throw? We'll find out. We'll find out.
All right, Pat, talk about. I'm sure we don't really need a lot of logic behind choosing Tyreek Hill.
He's playing Detroit.
Okay.
I feel like I've said this twice now.
All right, so we're going to go with Pat's choosing Tyreek Hill. What about Devonta Smith?
The Eagles love to score touchdowns. They just do. Devonta Smith has a very soft matchup against Baltimore. Before I say Baltimore, I think he's playing Baltimore.
Baltimore's playing Tampa tomorrow night.
Oh, that's not them then. Who are they playing? Who are they playing?
I don't know who Philly's playing.
I have my phone here.
We're terrible. We're not.
I can figure this out. Philly. Oh my God, Philly doesn't play at all. This is the worst pick ever.
No, they play someone. Because I almost went with Hurts, Devonta Smith stack.
I should hope so. Philly. Philly plays the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, I already talked about that with fucking Miles Sanders. I'm so dumb.
Their defense is so good. So good. They have the best cornerbacks in the league. I can't believe I picked Devonta Smith.
Okay. All right, so sarcasm aside, Pat picked Devonta Smith, and for the same reasons why Matt and I chose Miles Sanders, Pittsburgh defense is awful. Tight end, Pat talked about Irv Smith with his start of the week. Matt, Dalton Schultz.
He was the guy last year in Dallas, right? Like, he was there probably behind CeeDee Lamb, their most productive offensive pass catcher. And he was injured at the beginning of this year. He came back, and then magically Dax comes back, and he's got 7 catches for 80 yards or something last week. So I forget who they're playing this week. We're so bad at this, not knowing. They're playing Chicago. So Chicago's a good defense, but for that price and who was available around that price, I thought he was the best option.
And I went with Pat's favorite player on the Rams, Tyler Higbee. He loves Higbee very much. Correct, Pat?
I do?
Yeah,
I do.
So Higbee's matchup this week is against San Francisco, who they have played earlier this year. Mr. Higbee got 14 targets against San Francisco earlier this year, catching 10 of them for 73 yards. For 40 tight end position after Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is playing Thursday Night Football this year. He's not even available for this. Travis Kelce's on a bye week. Your tight end position is very scarce this week, so they're all going to be cheap options. You guys chose below 4,000. I technically paid up for a tight end this week with 4,200 for Higbee, but because DraftKings is PPR, 6 catches, 60 yards, it's 12 points. Call it a day. We talked about my flex, so both of you guys have a player on the same team. So we'll go with Pat and choosing the double tight end route.
He's just going to score a touchdown. That's all I got for you.
Right.
2 catches, 8 touchdowns, 15 yards. Give me 10 points from a flex spot when I'm paying $6,700 for 2 positions. That's almost the rest of my team for a single position. You got to find value somewhere. Will Dissly has been a value play most of this year, and I'm going to hope for some value again this week.
And Matt, about Goodwin?
He came out big last week. He 4 for 60 something and 2 touchdowns. No DK. He's going to be out for a little while. The only thing is that the Giants secondary has been good this year.
Yeah, but I
think the thing that the Giants defense does is they bend but don't break. They give up a bunch of yards, but they don't give up tons of touchdowns. They hold guys to field goals. That's how they beat Baltimore. Baltimore would drive down the field and they would kick a field goal. So that's kind of good for the wide receiver spot outside of the touchdowns. But if you're going to get a lot of targets, could wind up with 6 catch, 7 catch for 80-yard game. You're at 15 points. That's pretty good for a flex spot.
All right. So, and we already talked about the Commanders' defense. So that'll do it for the DraftKings segment, and that'll pretty much do it for this episode. Anything you guys want to add at the end here? All right. So thank you all for joining us. This was recorded on Wednesday. It'll be being posted, and you'll be watching it Thursday, maybe during Thursday Night Football, before Thursday Night Football, after Thursday Night Football. For all 4 of you watching out there, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment down below something. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemy if you want to be mean to them. I don't know. It's not being nice to them, I don't think, at this point. As we showed, we are not very prepared when we come on here. But
we know the schedule.
Yeah.
We got a pin up of that in the background of our computers from now on.
Yes, that's probably the best idea. I have 2 monitors. I don't utilize them enough. So, have a good night. Be safe out there. Enjoy the rest of your fantasy football season. Have a good night.